Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a video for all you bird catchers out there, especially those obsessed with flying types since the original games. Because in this video we'll be ending an age-old debate, finally answering the question, which was better, Pidgeot or Fearow? These two Pokemon were among the strongest choices for flying types back in Red, Blue, and Yellow that weren't legends anyway, so naturally groups of friends argued over which one was a better Pokemon. Feeding this debate, the show we all grew up with iconically pitted these two Pokemon against each other in a number of different episodes, effectively splitting fans between Team Pidgeot and Team Fearow. So let's end that debate. Which was better? First, let's take a gander at Pidgeot. Type flying and normal, Pidgeot has a pretty normal evolution track from Pidgey and Pidgeotto, with Pidgey being among the first Pokemon a player experienced in the wild on Route 1. So a lot of us early on probably played with this Pokemon in Red, Blue, and Yellow. Pidgeot competitively saw a decent amount of use back in the day, despite not having what we'd consider mind-blowing stats. Pidgeot really is a jack-of-all-stats, master-of-none type of Pokemon. All its base stats hover around the 70s to mid-80s, with the only real outlier being speed, which for a Pokemon that can supposedly break the sound barrier in the show, sits at an okay 91. Despite being type flying, Pidgeot really didn't learn very many flying type moves, but to be fair, back in Red, Blue, and Yellow, there wasn't much to choose from. There was always Peck, which kinda sucks, but a pretty good starting move, Wing Attack, which again has low power, Fly, the HM move all flyers could use that took a turn but gave invulnerability and hit with a decent 70 power, certainly a good old standby, and finally Sky Attack, which at a massive 140 power was the flying equivalent of Solar Beam with only 5 PP. And no, I didn't miss Gust, that was actually type normal in the first generation. Yep, makes sense. While leveling in a normal playthrough of the game, Pidgeot was a very viable choice because while it didn't have much in terms of flying moves, it did have a good amount of normal stabs. Gust, Quick Attack, Swift, Hyper Beam, all decent to great Gen 1 moves that made Pidgeot formidable at the very least. While these normal moves had no effect on ghost types, there were only 3 in the game, so it wasn't a huge deal. But the fact that typically Fly would be your only flying move meant that it put Pidgeot in worse matchups against types it should just demolish, like Grass and Fighting. Sure, it'll still take less damage from those types, but it can't deal with them as easily as other Pokemon with better flying moves in their arsenals. But we're here to see which flying Pokemon in Gen 1 would be best from a competitive standpoint as well as overall. And just because Pidgeot was good in normal playthroughs doesn't mean that's going to carry over well into the world of competitive battling. Competitively, Pidgeot is really a victim of that before mentioned move pool. Like in an average playthrough, the normal stabs are nice, but the lack of viable flying moves really hurt this Pokemon. You want that move pool to deal with grass and fighting types. Without them, Pidgeot's kinda average at best. Fly is a good move with decent power that can evade an attack, but that can sometimes work in your opponent's favor. Since Fly takes a turn, your opponent can just switch out to a rock type like Golem, take the hit easily, and crush Pidgeot with Rock Slide. The same can be said for something like Sky Attack. Players had to get creative with Pidgeot, using moves like, believe it or not, Sand Attack, which could usually force switches from their opponents. Missing an attack was such a deterrent, players would return their Pokemon and take a hit off the switch just to wipe that accuracy cut. What players often used with Pidgeot were moves like Agility and Mirror Move. Mirror Move really made up for Pidgeot's lackluster move pool by giving it the chance to use anything your opponent had, which, let's be honest, was probably better than what your Pidgeot had. Agility increased the likelihood that your Pidgeot could potentially sweep through Pokemon, while also giving you a look at your opponent's move and deciding whether or not it was worth mimicking or mirror moving. That being said, any Pokemon where you're hoping your opponent's gonna miss in order to make your move is probably not a Pokemon destined for competitive glory. In that, Red, Blue, and Yellow saw a lot of viable counters to a Pokemon like Pidgeot, which put it in a very hostile environment. As mentioned before, rock types like Golem and Rhydon would destroy Pidgeot, along with sturdy water types like Cloyster and Lapras, which countered with Ice Beam or Blizzard. Its normal moves, which were more commonly seen on Pidgeots at the time, did nothing against opponents' Gengars, who would strike back with Thunderbolt. And likewise, the fast Starmie would use Thunder or Thunderbolt to bring down Pidgeots in just a single turn. In all, Pidgeot is a gambler's Pokemon in Red, Blue, and Yellow. You were looking for luck to be on your side, as you hoped for misses and took what useful moves you could from your opponent's Pokemon. It may be that iconic, quintessential bird Pokemon in the game, but competitively, it had a hard time taking flight. Now let's move over and look at Fearow, oftentimes being directly compared to Pidgeot, and for good reason. Both are bird Pokemon, type flying and normal, but there are also some huge, glaring differences which sets Fearow apart. First, let's look at its stats and compare them to Pidgeot's. As you can see, Fearow has more speed and attack, but comes up short in health and defensive categories. Funny note, Pidgeot is often renowned for its speed, but yeah, Fearow's faster, so let that sink in. The stat difference comes down to playstyle and preference for most people. Do you value a more offensive or defensive Pokemon? Well, I'll tell you right now, from a competitive standpoint, offensive stats are more valued when you're dealing with numbers like these. By that I mean, yes, defensive Pokemon in Red, Blue, and Yellow did exist and really impacted the competitive scene. Just look at Snorlax, Chansey, or Golem for example, but they were extremes which made them insanely viable. Comparing them to the defensive stats of Pidgeot is more of an insult to those Pokemon. So while Pidgeot is more defensively minded, that's not going to be saving it from even neutral hits most of the time in a competitive match. While personally I feel like the stat distribution is better on Fearow, Pidgeot does have the overall higher base stats out of the two. So Pidgeot, you get the first sticker in this debate. Let's move on and compare their move pools. Unlike what we saw in Pidgeot, Fearow actually gets really strong flying stabs fairly early on, namely in the move Drill Peck. This is Fearow's bread and butter. With 80 power and 15 uses, it's better than even Fly, probably Pidgeot's best flying move. In addition to Drill Peck, Fearow also has access to all those wonderful normal stats we mentioned on Pidgeot: Hyper Beam, Swift, Mirror Move with Agility, Double Edge when you need to shut down electric types. So in terms of move pools, Fearow this time gets a star sticker over Pidgeot. Fearow and Pidgeot, from their stats, moves, and typings, obviously saw a lot of similarities when it came to counters and checks. Neither could do anything against beefy Pokemon, rock types or otherwise. Electric Pokemon could take them down easily, with Fearow gaining a slight edge over Pidgeot with its access to a faster Double Edge, which could potentially save it. Both still look to use Mirror Move to take like an Earthquake from Rhydon to use it against that Pokemon, all the while using Agility to up the chance of them not dying from a sneeze. But I suppose Pidgeot could take a slightly stronger sneeze, I granted that. Competitively, these Pokemon were pretty hard to use and really relied on luck and good predictions from your opponents. No one could steamroll with these Pokemon like you could with others, especially legendaries, so really from a competitive standpoint, they're both pretty equal. Pidgeot is probably more conventionally observed in competitive play back in Red, Blue, and Yellow, but I feel with the Flying Stab and Drill Peck, higher speed, and offensive capabilities, Fearow is my pick for competitive Pokemon back in Generation 1. There's still one last category we should cover to discover which is truly the better Pokemon, and that discussion takes us away from the competitive scene. Most of us growing up didn't play Pokemon Red and Blue in tournaments or even battled our friends. While that was certainly an awesome part of the game, the real meat of the experience came from a normal playthrough. So in that sense, which was better, Fearow or Pidgeot? We can look at all the information we gathered over the course of this video and easily conclude that Fearow, in Red, Blue, and Yellow, was the superior casual Pokemon to play with through the games. But why is that? Sure, Pidgeot was available a little sooner, had 3 stages of evolution, overall just looked way cooler, and was pinned as the quote good guys Pokemon in the TV show. But when it came to actual gameplay, it just doesn't have the stats and moves you want in a regular Pokemon on your team. Fearow was fast enough to one-shot most trainers and gyms you battled, and had a way better move in Drill Peck. Drill Peck is the type of move I love in a casual run of the game, because you get a lot of them. It does a lot of damage, is a stab of the typing, and barely ever misses. The perfect attack to grind experience with. Pidgeot just doesn't have that up until Fly. Quick Attack and Wing Attack is the best it's got. So with that in mind, I award the final point, star, sticker, whatever to Fearow, making Fearow the better of these two iconic flying Pokemon from the red, blue, and yellow versions of the game. It's funny how the show and even some of the games have pinned Fearow as like a legit enemy, antagonist to Ash and his friends, being ruthless, cruel, aggressive, basically the a-holes of the Pokemon world. Yet, even with this bad PR, it doesn't diminish the fact that Fearow is just a better Pokemon in most situations than the wholly righteous good guy Pidgeot. Though, I will concede, Pidgeot does look a lot cooler. And there you go guys, the debate is over, at least for me. Remember, while some of this is based on cold hard facts, I can't deny my own personal biases clouding other factors in this argument. So please, let me know who you'd put on top. Who would you say is better in Gen 1, Fearow or Pidgeot? Let the debate continue for you guys in the comment section below. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button and share it with other Pokemon fans. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more awesome videos in the future. And as always, we'll see you next time.